A McLaren Senna at Salvage auction. I haven't done one of these salvage auction analysis videos in some time now, honestly, because there really hasn't been anything super worthy to do one on, but a McLaren Senna is certainly a good reason to bring these out of retirement. The accident involving this McLaren Senna was just as public as the last one that I can remember that ran at salvage auction. These videos were posted around the internet probably something like 1,000,000 times. Probably more times than that car is worth in dollars. Since then, the owner of the car actually did a video justifying the accident, or at least attempting to, but more importantly for our purposes, he seized the car at the salvage auction, gets some close-up images of it, whether that was intentional or not, but you get a really good idea of the scope of the damage to this car. Now, the previous owner of the car, I don't know how much he actually knows about the construction of the car, the suspension, things along those lines, but I do trust his reaction to it, that the damage is incredibly significant.
I don't remember the car being this destroyed.
Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be fixed, but it means it's going to cost a lot of money, and the car itself is already a lot of money. Now, normally I would comb through this listing. We'd try and verify that there's no other auction history. It's not a rerun, something along those lines. With as public as this accident was, we know what this car already is. One important point is that it is a California salvage title, which is very important for US bidders. I have to imagine there's going to be some international ones here as well. The other thing that's massively important there, actual cash value, $1.3 million is essentially the retail value. That's usually an indication of what the insurance company paid out on it. And the fact that there is not an estimated repair cost for this car is pretty hilarious, considering they normally try and generate some sort of number. For this car, I don't even think they have a database that can spit out a number for that. Looking through these pictures though, on top of what we already saw in that previous video, the amount of carnage is significant. Both what you can see, and more concerning on this car, what you can't see. You look at how destroyed that windshield is, and all the pictures that I've looked at, it doesn't look like there's any damage to the A-pillars or the roof, but seeing that much spider webbing on that windshield is kind of terrifying, to be completely honest with you. And everything that it hit at the front end was after it hopped the curb. When you look towards the back there's damage on that rear quarter panel. The rear tire is flat. It doesn't look like it's sitting in the wheel well properly. So the obvious stuff up front is massively concerning, but with a car this expensive, everything at the back there is frankly terrifying for somebody from my perspective. Now, obviously, I'm not buying this car, but really the only side of the car that looks like it's any good is the back to back passenger side of it. And even that has some interesting stuff there on the carbon fiber. To the interior, the bag's blown. It looks like all the seat cushions are there, which is maybe a kind of a moot point. But when you move forward on the floorboard, you do see that image that he was talking about the carbon fiber being broken or maybe even punched through right there. And then here is all the obvious stuff. But again, the concern to me would be what is underlying on this car that you can't see in any of these photos. Now, with that being said, I think IAA did a really good job of representing this car. There wasn't anything in that other guy's, the previous owner's video, that I saw that wasn't well represented here. But again, they just don't take videos, pictures underneath the car, where I think the majority of the concern is for this. Now, the other big question before we comb through the last little bit of these pictures is who is going to be interested in buying this car? Obviously, there are several very large YouTubers that would be interested in it. The first person that probably comes to mind is Tavares in the US, but he already has his McLaren project going on. And frankly, the P1 is a better car in my eyes. I'm just not a huge Senna fan, but somebody else that comes to mind would be Matt Armstrong. I've seen his name attached to this a lot, where you could see one of those YouTubers paying this kind of money for it. And then aside from that, anybody else that kind of just has some big liquid funds that they want to spend. But I'll be curious if this car goes out of the country. No point in wasting any more time. It's running at auction right now. It's drawing a crowd here in my office. Let's see who's in on the action. So first off, Bethel, PA, I'll have to look into that, but McLaren of Philadelphia is in southeastern Pennsylvania. I don't know exactly where Bethel is, but honestly, I think it's in that area. It's interesting. I would think that maybe McLaren would have an interest in having this car back for some reason, or maybe just somebody that's in that area, maybe a customer of theirs, something along those lines. The other name that I think I just saw pop up, I see Florida and I see Cumming, Georgia. Now, what's interesting about Cumming, Georgia is there's a lot of big auto shops in Cumming, Georgia. First one that comes to mind is Vengeance Racing is in Cumming, Georgia. And also very, very close to them in Ball Ground is Fuel Tech USA's headquarters. I don't know if they have an interest in a Senna, but they also work with a lot of local people. And also directly across from them is Proline Racing Engines, Proline Motors, however they do their name. But they are very, very close to Cumming, Georgia. And then you see Florida. I was expecting to see Florida in on this. There's maybe not necessarily an indication of who that is in Florida, but this car going to Florida would make a lot of sense. It would just be curious who bought it. Are you surprised?
I feel like it's bidding up kind of slow.
It's slowing down a little bit. And
yeah.
Again, given the amount of damage and how many questions are around this car, I don't think it can go for what Tavares's P1 went for at $500,000. Like there's too many question marks with this accident. That car was a flood car. You knew what happened to it. Same thing with the last Senna, the Hamilton collection, I believe, that the guys at Goon Squad got involved in. You know, that car, all the damage was pretty much on the surface. This one has a lot of underlying. It is slowing down. It is really slowing down. Something funny about going in like $500 increments when you're talking about $300,000. All right, so Georgia is the high bidder now. Let's see if it sells. Hey, there you go. Now, the important thing here, it did go to Georgia there, but the important thing is that it did not sell. It says if bid, and what that means is that the insurance company has an option to accept the bid. They probably have a reserve on it. I'm going to guess that we're probably going to see a buy it now on that car up tomorrow. It takes a day for it to be basically relisted. I'm going to bet that they want $500,000 for that car. I think that that's just, for a McLaren Senna that they just paid out $1.3 million on, I think they're going to want $500,000. I do always love to see you guys comments on these videos. They're, you know, very subjective. Everyone has an opinion on it. You're talking about $325,000 for a wrecked McLaren Senna. Obviously, the parts value in that is absolutely enormous, but I have to imagine whoever wants that car, wants to fix it. They want to try to get their hands on a McLaren Senna for, call it roughly 50% off. So the question is, if you had $325,000 and then the additional funds needed to fix that car, would a smashed McLaren Senna be in your wheelhouse to potentially purchase from Salvage Auction? As always, thanks for watching. Here in about a week, Carrington and I are going to be headed to the road course to run the BRZ TS rebuild against his boss Mustang, as well as some of the other guys here in the shop are supposed to be tagging along. So hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun, even though it is going to be incredibly cold weather here in the Northeast. So plenty more content to come. As always, thank you for tuning in. See you in the next video.